The Mwene Congo, or kings of the Congo Empire, were ideologically and politically in bed with the Portuguese. They were obsessed with Portuguese goods and services and virtually allowed their so-called European brothers to manipulate the whole country, enslaving the very elite within Bakongo society. This ultimately led to the various civil wars that absolutely ravaged the country and left many Bakongo people devastated. Ironically, out of all the individuals within the empire, it was a young girl who decided to speak truth to power, initiating the first documented religious movement in Central Africa. What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. By supporting this channel on Patreon, you're helping in the creation of these videos and supporting this content. If you'd like access to full courses and sources, or you simply want to show your support, you may do so by clicking the Patreon link in the description box below. Today, we're going to talk about the life of Kempa Vita, one of the most important African figures that we rarely speak about. What she was able to accomplish as a young woman was very impressive, especially because the Bakongo countryside was so politically unstable. The Bakongo people were introduced to Christianity with the arrival of the Portuguese in the 15th century, and many Bakongo nobles were baptized into the faith. Kempa Vita herself was baptized and was renamed Beatrice. Kempa was said to be a Congolese prophet and the founder of a Christian movement that became known as Antonianism. Her movement became very hostile toward the European missionaries in Congo. She was born around 1684 in a small provincial town near Mount Kibangu at the banks of the Mbedizi River in the eastern end of the Kingdom of Congo, today part of Angola. As all Congolese who had been Catholics for nearly 2 centuries, she was baptized as soon as a priest passed her town. Kempa's family were members of the highest group of Congolese nobility, but unfortunately at her birth, the Kingdom of Congo was torn by armed turbulence. A period of civil war followed the death of King Antonio I at the Battle of Mbwila. As a result, the former capital of Mbanza Congo was abandoned in 1678 and left in ruins. Mbanza Congo was important because it was the ancient center of the Bakongo people, a symbol of civilization, history, and pride. The country was divided into major factions ruled by rival pretenders to the throne. The Capuchin missionary Fra Bernardo de Gallo reports that Kempa had her first vision when she was about 8 years old. In her vision, 2 Nkitas, or children from the other world, played with her and gave her a beautiful glass rosary. She started to get a strong inclination toward religion. As Kempa Vita grew older, her interest in the spiritual side of life increased, and it became obvious that she was gifted. She was trained to become an Nganga, meaning knowledge or skill in the Kakongo language, a person said to be able to communicate with the other world. Kempa became a particular kind of medium called Nganga Marinda, whose special ability was to address social problems as well as individual ones. This very respected office involved helping people who had problems originating from the other world. As a Marinda Nganga, she was also linked to the so-called Kempasi society, Kempasi meaning suffering. Young initiates were chosen from the community, like in the case of Kempa Vita, and put inside a secret and isolated enclosure. They were taught new languages as well as occult knowledge and had to swear an oath of secrecy. In 1703, Kempa and her neighbors left the Mbedizi Valley and joined the new colonists dedicated to restoring the former capital, Mbanza Congo. In August 1704, Kempa Vita fell ill with a mysterious sickness. She later reported to Fra Bernardo de Gallo that she died and that she was reborn as Saint Anthony. The saint had entered her dead body and she received the divine commandment to go and preach. She followed the example of the Capuchins and distributed her personal property. She set off to preach to the king of Kimbangu, but he refused to see her. She argued that the king was not determined enough to restore the kingdom and therefore she would do it herself. Another Bakongo woman supported Kempa, claiming that Kempa was the real voice of God. Both women preached against greed and jealousy, amongst other things. Kempa claimed that she died each Friday and spent 2 days in heaven talking to God, just to return to earth on Mondays. While in this state, she learned that Congo must reunite under a new king. The civil war that had plagued Congo since the Battle of Mbwila in 1665 had angered Christ himself. She claimed that God ordered her to build a specific Congolese Catholicism and to unite the country under one king. Khempa's movement was more concerned with the moral principles of her faith and not the European traditionalisms that plagued it. She convinced the Bakongo that one day they will have a saint of their own, an African one. Kempa claimed that in her trips to heaven, God revealed to her the real history of Christianity. According to her visions, Jesus had been born in Mbanza, Congo, the spiritual capital of all the Bakongo people. His baptism in Nazareth was only a fake name for his real place of baptism, which was located in the northern Congolese province of Nsundi. She also professed that his mother Mary was a Bakongo woman. Since one of the rivals to the Congolese throne refused to see her, she visited another. One by one, they all turned her and her followers away. Her followers saw in her an ideal ruler, a social revolutionary and peacemaker. If they could, they would have probably installed her as Queen of Congo, as she would no doubt fight against the greed and violence of the ruling kings. In 1705, her vision came to fruition, as herself and thousands of her loyal followers returned to Mbanza, Congo and occupied it. Kempa was now the undisputed mistress of the royal capital and determined to fulfill her mission of restoration. Rumors of her powers had spread throughout the country. She built herself a small house behind the ruins of the cathedral and started preaching from there. To help her with her work, she began to commission her little Anthonys, as they were called, who were to become St. Anthony's missionaries all over Congo. The Antonian movement was becoming involved in the politics of the kingdom, and the political authorities were no longer able to control the forces that had been unleashed by her preaching. In 1706, Kempa was captured and tried by Congolese law, in which she was condemned as a heretic and was ordered to be burned at the stake. Although Kempa was killed, her movement outlived her. In fact, many of her followers believed she was still alive. One of the rivals to the Congo throne wanted to ensure that her movement perished, and he found varying levels of success. Some scholars claim that some of her followers were enslaved and brought to America, where they carried out a revolt known as the Stono Rebellion in South Carolina. If this is true, her legacy is certainly far-reaching. Even though Kempavita only temporarily restored the spiritual home of the Bakongo people, her bravery and determination is worthy of note, as she took on the most powerful forces of her day in her early 20s. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.